This video was recorded on November 23rd, 2021. Hey everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Robert Kinsler.
And tonight, as we record this, before we start, I should mention tonight is the last show of the Rolling Stones' recent tour, a tour that began in September 2017, then was delayed due to COVID, then came back, and tonight's the last night. But last week, you got to watch them.
I did. I went to their second to last show. Am I saying that right? I think I am. They playing in Florida tonight. I saw them on Saturday night on November 20th in Austin, Texas. So it was originally going to be their last show, but then I believe they added the show in Florida, which is happening tonight.
Wow. So yeah, it might have been the last show that you saw them, but second to last.
Yeah, second to last show. But I'm very glad I went. I had never actually been to Austin, which for music lovers, almost a crime. I mean, it's such a great town for music and food, and it kind of like Nashville. It's so legendary for those of us here in California that we have a history of great rock and great music here, but there's a different ambiance when you go to these other music cities.
Yes, I have been there, and myself, I've actually played. I played out there. And yeah, it's a very, very unique, very different feel and vibe, unlike anything I've ever experienced and would love to experience again.
Yeah.
But we want to talk to you about the show that you saw, talk to you about the Rolling Stones. I want to talk to you about it, and I think everybody else would like to hear what you have to say about it. But also, I want to just say to everybody, this is not just going to be a concert review. We are going to talk a little bit about the Rolling Stones, their legacy, what, if anything, will be next. And so just go ahead. Let's first just talk a little bit.
Well, yeah. So let me tell everyone. So the Stones, as everyone knows, Charlie Watts, their founding drummer, passed away in August of this year. They finished the tour, this leg of the tour, without Charlie. I have to say the new drummer, he was very good. But there's just something when you lose your founding a member like that, it changes things. So that was different. But they did an amazing tribute to Charlie at the beginning of the show, where they actually played his drum track and then had these 3 massive screens where they would show pictures of him, or people, like people holding up signs about Charlie and stuff. And it was very moving. And then a few songs into the show, Mick Jagger talked a little bit about how they had played together for 59 years and that they really missed him, and he was a great drummer and all that. It was very moving. So it was nice to go, even though you didn't have Charlie Watts, it was nice that you were there at the show to kind of, pay tribute to his legacy and what he meant to the band, because he was such a huge part of the Rolling Stones and their sound. There's no doubt about that. So like I said, great, Mick Jagger is a force of nature, runs around the whole time. Guy's 78, but you'd never know it. I mean, it's incredible. He sounds good, looks good. The other thing that people might want to know is that, and I'm a huge Stones fan, so I'm not bashing anybody, but Ronnie Wood does the majority of the heavy lifting now. Keith is just visibly slowing down a little bit. His guitar playing is not quite as sharp as it used to be. And, he still plays. That he's featured on lead vocals on a couple of songs the night I went, but it's not the same band that we saw, even through the 80s and early 90s, now. So, it still was a Rolling Stones show. Definitely the crowd was into it. You're hearing all these iconic, great songs out of, part of, the rock and roll language here. But it was different though than when I had seen them, previous times.
How long ago do you think it was when you last saw them prior?
Well, I saw him prior with Charlie. I saw one of his final shows was in Arizona back in 2019.
Okay.
And so that was I think that was about a year before he passed away. And he was very much great.
Yeah.
and that show was a little bit stronger than this show.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying it was just because of Charlie. It was just, or maybe it was because of where I sat or whatever. That show was a little bit better than this show, but they were still very, very good here. And the reviews I've noticed for this final leg of the No Filter tour have been very strong. And I don't know if it's people just, they're grateful that we get to see the Stones one more time, and but I think that it's like many of these bands from the 60s that are still going on. You're grateful that you get to see them, and in many ways they are still really doing a great job. And
yeah. And bands from this era, there's not a whole lot of them that are still going on at this point. Besides the Stones, we talked about, I think we mentioned it before we started taping The Who with Daltrey and Townsend, of course. Daltrey
Right.
and Townsend, of course. And then the Zombies.
Right.
I remember you mentioning them with there's only 2 original players there.
Right. And they were playing up until a few years ago when they would do Odyssey and Oracle. They would bring in, their drummer and their bassist and to do that album together. But I think that they just don't want to do the touring anymore like Rod Argent and Colin Blunstone do. And I'd say the Zombies are very, very strong. They're still, to me, a very, very great band. There's not, Rod Argent and Colin Blunstone are amazing live. So you're still seeing a very, very good band at the, intact when you go to see them.
I like what I heard of their last album. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, their shows, like I said, I saw them a few years ago, open for Arcade Fire, and the crowd went nuts. I mean, they can still bring it, very good. ZZ Top, we don't know, because now it's, they lost their, they were from the late 60s, but they had their complete founding lineup. But now obviously Dusty Hill passed away. So I don't know what that will be like now to see ZZ Top.
You had Billy Gibbons doing these solo albums. Why wasn't he doing them with ZZ Top? And I always suspected maybe someone has health problems. And yeah, and the Who, their last album that they did was just really knocked me out. I was surprised at how incredibly good it was.
Yeah.
I was, better than I had any right to expect it to be, in my opinion. But yeah, you're right. We don't have a whole lot of them still either recording and releasing new music or touring. And if they are touring, not many of the original band members left.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only other one I can really think of, and I know people out there will probably tell us otherwise, but the other group I can think of is the Moody Blues, and recently they lost one of their original members. So, unfortunately, when you have groups that are in their 70s, maybe possibly like in the case of Charlie Watts, that are now in their where members are in their 80s. Yeah. Unfortunately, you're going to start having some of these great legendary names pass away. Yeah. And that's sad. So kind of, that was kind of our thinking, like, hey, this might be our last chance to go see the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And my wife and I loved them so much in 2019. We said, hey, when we saw that they were doing another leg of tours, and at that time they hadn't announced any dates in Southern California. So we said, hey, we've always wanted to go to Austin. Let's go see them there. And I'm glad we, like I said, TJ, I'm glad we did go. I hope I'm not coming off too negative, because it was a fantastic concert.
Yeah, I'm you don't think you're coming off negative. It's just kind of bittersweet because, in all honesty, do you think there will be another tour after this one, in all honesty?
To be honest, I believe, and I think you're the one that told me, I think that they have another album in the can. I'm living in a ghost town, which they did perform, and that was one of the highlights of the show for me on Saturday, which was released as a single in 2020. I think that that's going to be off that next album, and I'm hoping that comes out in 2022, which is, I believe is officially the band's 60th anniversary since they formed. So that would be a great way to cap an unbelievable career. And maybe they do a couple special club shows or something to maybe focus on that, or kind of celebrate their legacy and say goodbye to fans. I don't know. But yeah, I can't see them doing the kind of tour that they did, a 4-year tour when all of them were in their late 70s. I just can't see that happening.
Mick had the heart problem, which he recovered from. He had the surgery. I believe it was surgery. Yeah.
And heart surgery.
I feel like Keith, like you were saying, because you were saying, Ron Wood is doing most of the heavy lifting on guitar. I feel, and I don't want to sound like I'm placing bets or anything. I don't want to sound morbid, but I feel like Mick will probably outlive Keith at this point. I could be wrong. We've always joked. There's always been these jokes, when the atomic bomb drops, the only thing left standing will be Keith Richards and cockroaches.
Right. Exactly.
But I don't know how much longer he'll be able to go on.
Yeah.
I think it's a question of how long can, I agree with you. I can't see these 4-year tours or 2-year tours. Yeah. Maybe a little set of shows because of the album. And when I read about this album, that they were working on this album even before Living in a Ghost Town was released, this last album of original material that would be original material, or mostly original material, I would guess, that it really felt the way when I listened to read some of the interviews with them, that they were thinking this is going to be the last album.
Yeah.
This will be their last musical statement, and I can't imagine them making too much more music beyond that.
Yeah.
As far as recording. And I also can't imagine them playing, a whole lot more after this. I mean, I could be wrong. Yeah. They could prove us wrong. And that would be great, actually, if they did.
It would be.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I hope I hope a lot of my like I said, and I call them minor criticisms, I hope that I'm totally proven wrong. I would love the Stones to keep going, and I'd love to see this album released and maybe another album released. But I think, like you say, when you're dealing with Father Time, it's great when you have as many years as they've had.
Oh yeah,
6 great years. But eventually, it catches up with all of us, myself included.
Yeah.
So but they have an incredible legacy. And I think the Stones are a band that maybe because so much of their sound is rooted in the blues, it's allowed them to, I think, to go this many years on and not be an embarrassment. I mean, like I said, Living in a Ghost Town, that's a great song. It kind of fits them, and like Mick's blowing the blues harmonica and stuff. I mean, it really, they're a mature band now, but I mean, it really works for them, kind of some of what they're doing, like Midnight Rambler. I think that was like 13 minutes. It's just basically a bluesy, rollicking good time. It was great, and those things really work out well for the Stones.
We've talked about that before, that even when they're just playing a standard blues progression, it's the dynamics between the guitars and everything else that allows them to transcend that. I imagine, though, that even if they do retire, like they release this album, maybe do a couple shows and then retire, we'll still, of course, I don't imagine we are going to see archival releases, of course. Mm-hmm. I think we'll see more of the live releases that you've been a big fan of and that we've talked about here. We'll see more of those coming out, of course, the Vault shows.
Right.
And of course, we'll probably see some special edition sets of previous albums. I'm sure we'll see some of those. I guess, I don't think you're being negative. I think it's just bittersweet.
Yeah, it is.
What you're feeling.
I
think that's what you're feeling.
Because I have to share with everybody, I was during the show, there was a point where I said, gosh, the Stones it's almost like they're larger, and of course with these massive video screens, but you're truly watching, one of the most important and influential and great bands of all time. And you go, I'm sitting here watching these guys, and this might be it. This might be my last chance to experience them. And you don't know how long you have with them. And I'm glad at least I took that moment to kind of appreciate that I was there, So,
I'm glad you did too. Glad you got to.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I kind of felt like that in 2019, but with the loss of Charlie Watts, it was very palpable this time. You could really feel it.
Yeah. And if Keith Richards were to, God forbid, leave us, in the near future, either before or after this album gets released, I think that would put the nix on any really big shows.
Yeah, I agree.
I think at that point they might decide to hang it up. You might, I don't know. I could picture maybe a few intimate performances, maybe, maybe something like that. I don't know. Possibly, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. I hope that Keith doesn't kick it anytime soon, though.
Yeah, I do too. I hope he outlives us. How about that?
Yeah, there we go. Hope so. But at any rate, though, so Yeah. So, anyways, I think I feel like we just kind of wanted to just talk a little bit about what we think, where we think it's things are going to go with the Stones in the near future, and I think that we've kind of said it. There's going to be the album. Looking forward to it. Hope it's good. And but yeah, it is now that I hear you talk about it, it is very bittersweet. Glad you got to see it.
Yeah.
If
And
anybody got to see,
thanks for letting me share too.
oh yeah. Thanks for sharing, man. I wanted you to share this with everybody because I don't know, like you said, we don't know we don't know if we'll get any more performances after this.
Yeah, we don't know.
Today may have been their last show ever, for all we know.
Yeah.
We never know. We don't know. Yet they might still do something. Maybe they'll televise something. I don't know. Yeah. But if you're out there watching and you got to see any of the shows, let us know your thoughts. Tell us about it. Tell us your thoughts about the Rolling Stones and share. And I mean, it sounds like we're memorializing them already. I don't want to do that.
I know. Yeah.
But still, I think it's it's good to talk about this stuff. Anything else you wanted to add before we go?
No, just like I said, I'm very grateful that I got to see the Stones this leg of the tour. At first I'm like, do I want to see them without Charlie Watts? But I'm very glad I got to see them, and so I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we loved Austin, but also love seeing the Rolling Stones again too.
Well, thanks for sharing that, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, if you like the videos we do here, click like so the YouTube algorithm recognizes us and more people discover these videos. And click subscribe if you haven't, and share these videos with anybody you think might be interested in checking them out. We'll appreciate that. A big shout out to the patron supporters. If you'd like to be a patron supporter, please go to patreon.com/TJR the original. And we'll look forward to checking out your comments if you've seen the shows and anything else you might want to talk about regarding the Rolling Stones. Feel free to just discuss whatever. And who knows, maybe we'll make a video topic out of it. If you say something that we think is really interesting and thought-provoking, maybe we'll do that. You never know. Okay. Well, Robert, good talking to you.
Hey,
glad you enjoyed the show and had a safe trip.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
We'll see y'all later, folks. Everybody, take care. Bye-bye.